Venetica. Developed by the German-based Deck 13 Interactive, known primarily for making PC adventure games, Venetica was released stateside for the PS3, 360, and PC on January 18th. Titles like these tend to fly under the general gamer's radar, buried under the mountainous piles of released software that only adds every week. There is no doubt that the splash Venetica will make in the market will be a muted affair, and judging by its qualities, or more precisely the lack thereof, it's a fate well deserved. It's your typical day in the peaceful town of San Pasquale. Typical until the arrival of masked marauders that proceed to burn the village in search of our main protagonist, Scarlet. With her love Benedict slain in the attack, Scarlet is quickly swept up in a spiritual and political conflict, where the forces of death itself hang in the balance. As the story plays out, it becomes more and more apparent that while conflict is happening, and the story follows your basic skeleton structure, the narrative itself is a choppy and completely disjointed affair. Scenes play out without any rhyme or reason, without any regards to narrative flow or connection, and barely tie into the overarching story, predictable and hackneyed as it already is. While these issues might be the result of poor localization on the part of the publisher, it's doubtful that a perfect translation would do away with the tepid and banal plot. Venetica is, at its heart, a hack-and-slash RPG. Slay enemies, loot their corpses, receive gear and gold. Repeat over and over. Mixed in is your occasional dungeon in town where you can buy necessary supplies and go on side quests, which features a distressingly low amount of variety or tangible rewards. Through defeating enemies and completing quests, you gain experience, from which you increase your base stats and learn spells and fighting techniques. The one unique twist to the popular mechanics of the game is the ability to go into what is called the Twilight World, where you are able to talk with dead spirits to gain necessary information, find hidden passages through walls, and even bring yourself back from the dead should you fall in combat. You use these abilities by gathering Twilight Energy, which you gain by slaying enemies with a specific weapon, the Moonblade. Save for the revive mechanic, this notion of gameplay goes tragically underutilized, reserved only for clumsily implemented moments of the story. While the story and design hinder Venetica's playability, it's the lame duck combat that proves to be the anchor that weighs down the entire game. When the combat isn't mind-numbingly easy, it's frustrating, and when it's not frustrating, it's buggy and inconsistent. Dodge rolling is especially horrendous, because not only is it a crapshoot that Scarlet will roll in the direction you intend, but you can't roll through enemies, dead or alive, or any object that happens to be on the ground. This means that when enemies surround you, and they will, you will more than likely die. Dying, however, is more of a temporary advantage than anything because of your ability to reposition yourself and wait for your resurrection to try again. The game tries to put a limit on this game-breaking ability by giving you an energy bar that can only be filled by slaying enemies with a weak weapon, the Moonblade. But, since you only need to finish off the enemy with the blade, you can whittle an enemy's health down with a stronger weapon and finish them off with the blade, thus negating any challenge that gathering the necessary energy would have had. It's quite obvious that Venetica was saddled with a penny-pinching developer, as per the game's engine being run on the open-source Ogre graphics engine. Not only does the game look embarrassingly ugly in this day and age, and not only does it suffer severe frame rate drops during relatively tame moments of action, but the game is prone to numerous glitches and freezing. A particularly memorable occasion was the time I had to open a treasure chest to gain a necessary item to continue, but the game decided to not recognize the button command, and I was unable to progress. There are some inklings of design inspiration here and there in the level architecture, but because of the underpowered engine, the effort was wasted on poorly rendered and blurry textures. While the music in Venetica is passable, relying on the tried and true orchestral swells of other RPGs, the voice acting is a completely different story. Performances are a polarized spectrum that's either wooden and lifeless or laughably hammy and over the top.
He can only make us godlike if the book is found. Did you not listen? He explained it all before.
Shut up, Black Pearl. Your opinion is of no relevance here.
All the while being read from an awkwardly translated script. Making the voice acting even more baffling are when the words being spoken don't match the subtitles that go with them, or when the game plays the wrong lines during choice conversations.
Actually, I'm looking for a special book.
It's a long story. Back in the old days, there was a Night Watch who had the keys.
Venetica is a downright deplorable game. There is no getting around that clear and unavoidable truth. But there is something to the title that it has over your typical bad game. It's so incomprehensible, so broken, and yet so brain-dead easy that it's actually pretty funny to play. While your everyday bad game is an anger-inducing experience, playing Venetica is kind of fun because you're compelled to see what else this game gets wrong. It's not condemnable to play this game if your curiosity gets the best of you, so long as you know what you're getting yourself into, but if you want to play an actual good game, then consider Venetica Poison Ivy.